Happy Friday, folks. Welcome in to a very happy edition of We Have the High Ground. It's going to be a great show today. We're doing our top 5 Ahsoka Tano moments. Oh, I bumped the mic. I'm so sorry, everybody. So sorry, everybody's ears. Very excited. But joining me as always for these wondrous lists that we've been obsessed with doing here on the show is my boy Bogz, all the way over, the sheriff of Nottingham himself. How's it going, bud?
Thank you, Friar Took. And yes, we've been planning this list. Like, I wasn't massively looking forward to it when I think Soul came up with the idea of doing this list because you know Ahsoka's moments back to forward, and I was like, yeah, I kind of know what my top 5 would be. But doing a few hours research on this, like, I loved it. Like, I got emotional, like reminiscing, the nostalgia, like, and there's so many things I've missed that I've just realized over the last day, like, that I can't wait to talk to you guys about. Like, and wonder if you guys spotted the same thing, or maybe at the time I spotted and I forgot, and I was like, oh my god, like, so much deep stuff here. So yes, very excited to do our top 5, and yeah, definitely looking forward to Souls as well because you were the one that suggested it, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are you,
Is she your favorite character? Did I?
She is my favorite lightsaber wielding character in Star Wars because there's a difference, and I will. She was a Jedi, but after all of what happened with her in the Clone Wars, she's now she says all the time, "I'm not a Jedi." So,
but then Dave Filoni called her a Jedi in an episode of television, so it's fine. And I like the conversation that we can get into maybe at the end of this if we feel like she's more Jedi than anyone who's ever called themselves a Jedi. And I think that's a great conversation that she doesn't want to be, but guess what? You're stuck with it because you are who you are. But first, we got a bit of news. Mr. Bogz, what's going on in the data bank?
Yeah, so quickly, just a quick mention about the Cassian Andor series, of course, and the mention that Alan Tudyk, the actor who plays K2SO, has confirmed that he's not in season 1 of the series. So yeah, a bit of a surprise, because initially they did mention that I think it was a Star Wars Celebration. I believe Alan Tudyk and Diego Luna were out together on stage. And Kathleen Kennedy was saying, they're both returning. Of course, that was we've seen their return in the comics, so there was a bit of kind of weirdness around that announcement. And now we know that he's not in the first season. We have seen some behind the stage footage, and during the Disney's announcements a couple of months ago. So yes, there's slightly more confusion around this, but it's a shame because he's one of the better characters in Rogue One, full stop. So yeah, a little bit disappointed, but I'm sure he'll be in it in season 2. So what are your thoughts, Colin?
Yeah, I'm interested to see how they build up the anticipation. Then if he's like a part of season 2, kind of like the way like Ahsoka was at the end of season 1 of Rebels, which we'll talk about today, and then how she becomes a bigger part in season 2. I kind of feel like they've learned that lesson before, where it's like we don't need to give them everything, and you want to introduce us to new characters. And I think it's going to help because probably building K2SO or, helping to revitalize him and switch him over, I think is going to be a bit of therapy for him in season 2 because I don't think a lot of his friends are making it out of season 1. So are you, am I a bit too morbid, or do you think this is going to be, I think it's going to be a pretty dark show, so it makes sense.
I think so too, because what we know of Cassian Andor is that his family was part of the Separatist and then kind of rolled over into becoming a rebel. So I think we might see some Separatist things in season 1. We might not see him joining K2SO yet. And so Alan Tudyk did tell Entertainment Tonight that he will be on in a later date. So that could be a season 2, possibly a season 3. We'll know when we get there, but I'm happy that we'll at least see him in the future, that it's not the last of K2SO, because I agree with Bogz. He's one of the best parts of that movie as well, and I love that movie, full stop.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not he starts out as the character we know and love, or if he has to, like how much programming does Cassian actually have to do to get him to the final product that we see in Rogue One. Bogz, there's also a new book coming out from Claudia Gray. Are you going to snag this one? I believe it's called Into the Dark. It's another one of the High Republic novels. Comes out on Tuesday.
I think I'm going to wait on this one. So, as you guys know, obviously we did a spoiler-free review of Light of the Jedi. Don't really like it. I was a bit bored with it. No real character development really flies through the story. Doesn't really get, nothing really. You don't spend any time with the Jedi or any other characters, in fact. So yeah, I didn't really love that. This one, I'll probably see a few other reviews, maybe non-spoiler reviews, and I'll see where I go from there. But I'm not in any rush to read this one. I'll be honest.
What about you, Soul? The librarian herself.
I will be picking this one up just because it's Claudia Gray. And like I've said before, she is the queen of writing Star Wars stories in the books. And I've loved every story that she's written so far. So I have my full faith in Claudia Gray, we trust. And hopefully I'll let you know if it's good or not, Bogz.
And I think, Soul, you're getting good enough to know whether or not, like, just because you or I like something does not necessarily mean that Bogz or Sean or, John might like something. So I really like that you're kind of getting our taste down. And I like because you've been giving Bogz some hints about whether or not he's going to like upcoming episodes of WandaVision based off of his thoughts. So you're getting quite good at this. I
think I'm quite
I-
obvious, though, to be fair. Like, if you guys know, like, already, like, from a mile off, if I'm going to like something or not. So I don't like the way I'm so predictable like that. But yeah, at least, you guys.
Should we do like a top 5 worst moments in Star Wars? I think that would be a fun list.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm down with that. I would love to see like times. Top. Here's what we'll do next week. I'm saying it now. Top 5 cringiest moments of the prequels.
I'll just send you
I can
my
think of
list
ones
'cause I
outside
won't
the
be on
prequels,
there.
believe me. Yeah. Or just top 5 cheesiest moments or whatever. Yeah.
I love it. Let's do it. Top
sure.
5 cringiest moments
Yeah.
in Star Wars history. We're
Yeah.
coming to you.
Okay.
But this week, we have a top 5 Ahsoka Tano moments. So, I'm going to get us started with Rebels. That's how we'll be designating each one of these.
So wait,
by
let's
show.
explain the rules to anyone who
Okay,
doesn't
sorry.
know. obviously.
Excuse me. I was getting right into it. I'm getting hot off the top. Like
Excited,
I said, I'm excited.
excited.
I'm excited about this. I love this. On We Have the High Ground, when we do these lists, if Bogz has my number 5 in his top 3, he will say, or top 2, he will say,
I have the high ground, baby.
and then we will move on to Soul or Bogz or whoever is next, and then we'll talk about that one at a later date, or at a later date, later in the show. And then so on and so forth until we get to number 1. So it could be possible that everyone skips all the way to number 1, and then we're just sitting here doing this all day. But it gets fun. So without further ado, let's get into my number 5. Rebels, season 2, episode 10, Ahsoka versus the Inquisitors. Let's go. That is in the now iconic gif of Ahsoka lighting the white blades and coming out and just wrecking shop, showing why she's a top 5 Jedi all time, coming in and holding her own against what had been to this point on Rebels a true threat. And then she brings this extra level of like, are they though? And then really has an easy time dealing with seventh sister, right? Seventh sister,
yeah. And fifth brother,
and second brother, right? Fifth brother. I got their Funko somewhere, and like they were such a very unique concept, right? It was Jedi or Force users who turned and went down the dark path, and then kind of a way that she had opportunities to slip down and kind of saw a bit of like what she could have been, but taking it to the next level and really holding her shit. And Ezra and Kanan are like, they're just like, let's go. You gotta tell the guys after, like,
you got this.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate your presence. Oh, nobody said they have the high ground, so I like that. Like, this is for me. I'm a sucker for a good lightsaber battle, and Rebels had lulls for me where it would get like, oh, we gotta go rescue these people, and there's nothing to do with our lightsabers this episode except for like fending off some stormtrooper blasters. This was an epic moment for me. Like, this to me is kind of the. It was one of my favorite moments in all of Rebels, just in terms of fights. So, Soul, what about you?
That was a tough cut for me as well, Boggs. That originally was on my list. I did a lot of rearranging because there's just so many great moments. So my moment here is also Star Wars Rebels, but it's from season 1. It's the season 1
Hold on.
finale.
Is that, are you talking about your 5? So
Yes.
yeah, okay. Let me just comment on this one quickly. So yes, there was a tough cut for me. So this kind of lightsaber fight, this started at this whole episode was great. I felt like at the start of the episode, she's told Kanan that they need to split up, right? So Kanan and Ezra gone to find to kind of get locate the Inquisitors and the meantime, no, find some Force sensitive children,
Yep.
right? Which is why Ezra's got the little kid there, and yeah, and then because that's her first lightsaber fight returning into Rebels. So you kind of see the doors open and it's white, and she walks through the doors, and like how she was toying with them Inquisitors, you're like, she is a complete different level. And like Kanan's on the floor and knocked out, Ezra's like surviving for his life, and yeah, she comes and saves them both with absolute ease. And like you said, like there were like she's fighting both them Inquisitors, and there's a point where I think Ezra wakes up Kanan and he's like, "We need to get out of here." And then Kanan's like, "No, we can't leave her." And he's like, "No, she's fine. Let's get out."
No, like we're good. Like she's doing just fine on her own.
And they take off in like some transport, and then like she kind of force jumps up to catch up with them. But yeah, and then she had to leave because I think loads of stormtroopers came. But she's having fun and toying with them, and a little bit like what we see in the Mandalorian season 2, where she fights that is it the Magistrate Morgan Elsbeth, where she's toying with her, she's laughing, like she's smiling, she's enjoying it, she's like, this is like, she's way too much experience for this.
Like,
so.
I could literally choke you right now. I choose not to. I just need you to know I choose not to. I could push you up against the wall. I could tell you, I could make you do whatever I want. I could swirl all this water around you and act like a waterbender if I really wanted to, and we could really make this thing go crazy. But I'm gonna fight you with your spear, and we're gonna do this like adults.
And she's got the banter as well, you know, like Spider-Man-esque in the middle of like a fight scene. She'll have like really smart remarks, like they'll just kind of wind up their opponent. So
and the sister brought that out usually, right? Like she, even when she fought Kanan, like that was kind of something that like that was one of her shticks of like, she's gonna keep talking and she's gonna try to piss you off and she's gonna try to get under your skin. And she tried it against Ahsoka. Was like,
and even with a lightsaber, she's like, "You're beaten," like you know how like Anakin does, right? Vader does, sorry. And then that's when she escapes. But anyway, sorry. So you're 5.
It's okay.
Like,
Great moments. Like it's such a great episode too. I love Ahsoka so much. Hard cut, definitely a hard cut.
Mm-hmm.
So mine is also from Rebels, and it's the season 1 finale. And you guys are gonna think this is such a small moment. The episode.
That's my number 4. So that's
yeah, we can talk. We can talk about it.
So Fire Across the Galaxy. It's when Ahsoka reveals, like, know that she's Fulcrum. Like the reveal that Fulcrum is Ahsoka, and just when you're watching that and before knowing what's going to happen later on in season 2 and so forth, that Ahsoka's in Rebels, what? That was the moment. And you're like, one, she's alive. 2, like, she's here, she's still working. We get confirmation that the ghost is part of a rebel cell. And so even though like we kind of know that because the name of the show is Rebels, but just the confirmation there that they've been working with Ahsoka this whole time in season 1. And they're like, she's Fulcrum, she's there, she's gonna, and all the implications of what's gonna happen in the future. The end of that finale, you're thinking, oh, what is she gonna do? Is she gonna train Ezra? Is she gonna like what are the badass fights that we're going to see, like Colin's number 5? And so that's like, for me, just for seeing her in Rebels and seeing that she's coming forth, that was one of those moments of like, this has so many implications. And then we got to see it play out.
This is the moment that made me watch Rebels. I was on Twitter, hashtag Ahsoka lives starts trending. And I'm like, what? Like, what are you guys talking about over here? The show on Disney XD. Immediately go and binge all of season 1 up until that point, watching it through the lens, knowing that Ahsoka's coming. And the show does such a good job of like not telling you who it is at all. I think I've watched season 1 like 7 or 8 times now. The whole show since it's ended. how does this show like it's so masterfully done. Like they disguise it the whole way. She turns, it's almost the same, like to me, it's God, I hate Dave Filoni sometimes. It makes me emotional. When she turns around and talks to Anakin in Clone Wars and she's like, "Hello, Master." It's been a while. Like it had that vibe, but that obviously came afterwards, even though it happened before. So this to me, like revealing to the rebels, our rebels, that you're part of a bigger plan here. We are really making a difference. You are making a difference. People know who you are, and Ahsoka knows who you are, and it's just it's the beautiful way that Dave Filoni is just like whoop, whoop, you know, just dragging little, he's connecting all his little dots, and he's like, I'm gonna get him. And they didn't have a huge audience, and then as soon as Ahsoka comes in, bam, and then once the beginning of season 2, Vader, and it's like boom, 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 bang, 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 and thus begins like the Rebels really taking off and finding its footing, and it happens right here. What about you, Bogz?
Yeah, definitely a awesome reveal. Like I had no idea it was her. Yeah, because you hear that this Fulcrum voice, but it's always like on a kind of the audio is always out or like not working correctly on like a radio or transmission.
Distorted.
Like yeah, and you never kind of hear who it is, or there's no mention of it, or it's not obvious anyway. And then when she climbs down, and you hear you're like, oh my god, like she's alive. And then not only that, she looks completely different. She looks beautiful. Like she looks older. She looks like more experienced, more mature. You could just see like the animation's better, basically. And not only that, like what you said there. So like, oh my god, like Ezra's here, and then like, oh, Kanan's here. Like, what they're gonna do? They're gonna train, and then you're like, oh, Vader's around. Like, what? Who else is here? Like, oh my god, who else is alive? So yeah, it definitely it literally increased their intrigue in Rebels. You're like, okay, these guys are cool story, amazing music. Obviously with the I think Bail Organa is in that episode as well. So you're like, okay, it's clearly having tie-ins, and then out of the blue there's Ahsoka. It's like, what the hell? Like definitely a really good moment. And yes, I did consider it kind of at the latter stages of my list, but no, I had to cut that one out. Also, my 5, right?
That's your 5, sir. Sorry,
my
ball's
5.
in your court.
Okay, so little spoiler. So my top 5 are, so I kind of got a top 10. Okay, my top 5 are all emotional character moments. Okay, my 10 to 6 all action stuff. So that's how I kind of arrange my list. So if my list seems a bit weird, that's why. But my number 5 is Clone Wars, season 5, episode 20, called The Wrong Jedi. This is when Ahsoka leaves the Jedi Order. No one?
Actually, not on my list. Yeah,
Oh.
I knew there were going to be ones that I'm not going to put on my list because I want to have diversity. And I can tell you guys are going to have some. So yeah, this is one of the ones I left off.
It's kind of understandable because, to be honest, it's not the best moment, but there was so many I could put at 5, and this was like, I don't know. It was just like rewatching it. I was like, okay, this is good. So obviously, she's in this episode. Well, in this kind of at this point in season 5, that she's framed for murder, and she's kind of expelled from the Jedi Order. She kind of proved her innocence, but then she loses her distrust with the Jedi, and they kind of welcome her back, but she decides to leave. And there's literally a scene where she's standing with Anakin in front of the Jedi Order. So Yoda's there, Obi-Wan's there, Mace Windu's there, and she's like, no, I'm not coming back. I need to walk away. And she turns her back, and then she like, Anakin's like, what? Like, and he chases after her, and Obi-Wan is like, he ducks his head, and then like a couple of them others like don't move, like Mace Windu like almost doesn't care, and it's like, oh, maybe this is like a premonition of like how he behaves with other younger Jedi, like Anakin kind of thing. So he's like, he was stone cold, and I was like, you just notice all these subtle things, like, oh, okay, Obi-Wan's reacting, you have a slight reaction from Yoda, Anakin goes running after her, and then they kind of have a conversation, and she's like, she's trying to explain her decision, and at first he's confused, and then right towards the end of the conversation, he's like, I understand. I sometimes feel the same way. I wish sometimes how it feels like if I was not in the Jedi Order. Or sometimes I feel like leaving, and they kind of respectfully walk away. So yeah, definitely an emotional moment. Obviously, the music's great, and that's like an iconic scene when she's walking by herself towards them steps, and it's like a sunset, and obviously Anakin one side. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all my top 5 moments are like that. So to be honest, but yes, that was like the first real emotional moment with Ahsoka. I was like, oh, okay, like she's becoming a woman now, kind of thing, instead of like a Padawan or just an apprentice, or she's kind of making her steps out there in the universe, in the galaxy. So yes, that's my number 5. What are your thoughts, Sol?
So with this one, again, almost on my list. We're gonna be talking about so many that are on my list, and I'll be like, I thought about it and thought about putting it on my list.
Sure.
Do you guys think that when she says "I know" to Anakin, when Anakin was saying, like, sometimes I want to leave, do you think that she knows about Padme in that
Yeah,
moment?
there's a hint in it. So I've watched it for this, and he's like, because Anakin's clearly hinting like, oh, there's reasons why he wants to leave, and she's like, I know, and so it's like it's really obvious, yeah, or like there's an indication that she knows something, but obviously we see in season 7 that she literally does know, but yeah, at this point there's like a suspicion, I believe, or she kind of understands something that he's hinting at, but they don't make it too obvious. But yes, I do think there's some kind of interest there, or some she knows something's up.
Yeah, I think this moment is more of, like Bogz, you mentioned, it's not like the best episode because it's kind of like the wrap up of the whole like little
That story arc.
arc. Yeah, like so that usually happens on the back end, that there's like whatever, it happens. But this is like a fixed point in Star Wars. This is a very important moment for a lot of different people in Star Wars. It is the first time I think Anakin's probably ever seen anyone walk away from the Jedi Order. Shows him that you can do it. I think that's very important. And eventually leads him down the wrong path. But the repercussions of this moment are immense for a lot of different people. If Ahsoka doesn't leave the Jedi Order, you can argue that the Siege of Mandalore would have brought them to the same place anyways if she hadn't have gone. You could argue that Bo-Katan would have found her either way, no matter where she was. But it sets in a lot of things into motion that had for years and years and years and years. So yeah, this moment is absolutely beautiful. We already talked about my number 4. That was the Fulcrum reveal. Sol, on to your number 4.
All right, so my number 4 is also from Clone Wars. It's season 4, episode 14, A Friend in Need, and this is Ahsoka versus Death Watch. And what's cool about this episode is not only do you see her fight with her lightsaber, you also see her fight some like hand-to-hand combat, like picking up like one of those staffs and fighting off the dark saber with the staff. So like just the fact too that her no fear and her like these townspeople need help. And so I'm gonna do whatever I can, whether I have a lightsaber or not. And the fact too that you got R2D2 that like after she gets captured, bringing her lightsabers, that she's fighting Pre Vizsla, and so that fight is super cool too. So you get the lightsaber fights, you also get the hand-to-hand combat. You get her like on that oh, what's the name of like the speeder thing that like they're leaving and they're fighting on top of that. And it gave you kind of get those same feels like in Mandalorian, like the Bill Burr episode in season 2 where they're on top and they're fighting, or like you think of Solo fighting on top of the train. Like they love to fight on top of vehicles in Star Wars. And I love this part. I love just every point of Ahsoka, the fact that she's always willing, the best thing about her, she's going to help people, and that she doesn't want any death to happen, and that she's going to make sure she follows, like Colin said earlier, she follows the Jedi Order and the Jedi teachings a lot better than other Jedis, and you can see it exactly in this moment here.
Just like somebody who she's not like a zealot, but she's like the perfect embodiment of all of the morals, the things that truly matter about the Jedi. She is the walking embodiment of it. And in this episode, obviously this is one of the classic Clone Wars tropes of these people need help. We need to help these people, and dang it, we're gonna help them all, no matter what we have to do. But seeing her blades go up against the Darksaber is awesome. Like, she's got the yellow blade and the green blade, and it looks awesome. It's at night, so the colors are popping. I mean, it is so awesome. And you got Jon Favreau as freaking Pre Vizsla, so it's like you rewatch it now. Every episode with Jon Favreau is now just like elevated. It's like, oh, this is great. This is automatically way better. Bogz, was this automatically way better?
So upon doing research for this list, this was in my top 5, and I've had to cut it. So it was literally my number 6. I completely forgot how sick this episode is. Like, she's trapped. She's kind of she tries to help a village, right? And then she's captured by this rebel cell of Mandalorians, or Death Watch, right? And then she's kind of at one point she's tied up. So she's outnumbered. She's tied up by a wrist, by the kind of ropes that they have from their kind of armor. So there's four of them in like a corner of a room, right, in that kind of direction, right? And then R2 comes and saves her, like he does in the original series so many times, and the prequels. He blows his smoke thing, and then does his like electric kind of tool things, and then he hands her a lightsaber. She gets it. She cuts the wires. She slices the 4 guys around his heads off, right? And you're like, what? And then she kind of squares off against Pre Vizsla, and then she she goes kind of toe-to-toe with him, and she kind of earns his respect, because like you can't do nothing to me, like I'm different level here. And it was like her again, a coming of age thing for her. Like, I'm on an independent mission here, and I'm saving the village and saving my own. But there is a weird thing how she leaves. Like, it is a bit cartoonish, is a bit childish. Like, I think Saul mentioned that with the speeder bikes and stuff, but everything up to that middle part is like, whoa, like the way that she slices these guys' heads off, like I was like, unexpected as well. I'm like, what the hell? Like, so yeah, a little bit out of character, a little bit Anakin-esque, but yes, like I say out of character, I say what I mean is unexpected, because she can roll like that if she kind of turns it on. But yes, it's definitely I kind of wanted, I was flirting with this with on my 5. So definitely.
Bogz, you know what we call this in Star Wars? It's aggressive negotiations.
Pretty much, yeah.
With a lightsaber.
That's it.
Bogz.
Oh, it's right. It's my 4. Yeah. Okay.
It's your number 4.
Yes. So we go to Rebels. We are at season 2, episode 1 of Rebels, and it's the kind of last 10 minutes of that episode, where it's summarized by "The Apprentice Lives," where her and Kanan are kind of together. Her hand on his shoulder, his hand on her shoulder, and they're reaching out to the Force to see who's piloting this TIE fighter pilot, and it's Vader, of course. And there's just amazing shots of him in his TIE fighter, and he's kind of looking, and he's realizing, that they're kind of reaching out to the Force, and they're kind of both feeling each other. And then he realizes Ahsoka, and he's like, oh, the apprentice lives. And then like he wondered that, and then she kind of faints, right? And then it kind of cuts to white, and then he wakes up, and then kind of she wakes up in the kind of piloting cockpit of the Ghost, and Kanan and Ezra are there. And then she's kind of awake, and she's saying, "Oh, you have to tell me who that Sith is that you met on it was on Lothal, right?
Lothal.
Yeah, the siege of Lothal. So who was it?" And then they're like, "Oh, it's Vader. It's that I haven't felt." Kanan saying, "I haven't felt but it wasn't just him. I felt it was the hate, the anger." And then he's saying, "I haven't felt like this presence since," and she's like, "the Clone Wars." He's like, "Yes." And then all that time she and then I think Ezra asks her, "Do you know him?" She goes, and she turns away and she goes, "No." And then she kind of changes the conversation, and then Hera comes in at the end and then says, "Oh, basically, like, no matter what happens, we'll always be with you, like as friends, as rebels." And then it kind of, as the show finishes, like the camera pans to her just really subtly, just the last 5 seconds, it pans to her and just slowly zooms in at her, and she kind of looks away, like, so she's not told them that she knows who Vader is. She's keeping it to herself because she wants that reunion. And I just love like the subtle character. So this shows that she's not a perfect character. She's flawed. She could have easily told Ezra and Kanan who Vader is. They would have probably reported it back to Mon Mothma or the Rebellion, and they would have known who Vader is Anakin. But she's kind of kept that to herself. She's felt it, he's felt it Vader, and she's just saying, she's keeping that information to herself. So that's like Filoni respecting the law to not let, don't reveal who Vader is, and keep that a secret. And just that subtle Force moment, I just like the kind of character development of Ahsoka and building up to that kind of meeting later on in season 2. So yes, a lot of subtle moments here, character development stuff, which I loved. So what do you think, Sol?
Yeah, definitely the part where she's saying no and she's not revealing like all that history that she had.
Like protecting her brother, even though like he's gone evil and he like tried to kill them, her kind of new friends, but she's still protecting him after all this.
Yeah, and you kind of just see that all the love that is there for Anakin in that moment too, and that like even though he is Darth Vader now, that even though he is dark side now, she still holds that love for Anakin, and so she's like, I'm gonna protect him in this moment, even though I probably shouldn't, but I'm gonna do it anyways because that's Anakin.
Correct. Colin?
She's like, it just sets off a chain of events that you like. Vader's not going to stop. Like, now he knows. He knows, and he's not going to stop. And he sends like the entire inquisitorial squad, little Harry Potter reference there, like after them, and it is bonkers that I needed like 2 episodes of flashbacks with the Inquisitors of like their training with Vader. I need like some serious like what actually happened, because it kind of hardens him too, because there's still a bit of light in Vader towards the beginning of those early comics, but this dude that Ahsoka's dealing I always go back to the moment when Ezra's like, it's cold up in here. It's like it physically got colder here because this man showed up. She's refusing to accept the truth, and she's still dealing with the first stage is accepting. And she's right now, this is step 1, is dealing with the truth. And I'm with you, Bogz. Yeah, that wasn't in my top. I knew it was going to be in somebody else's, but good shout. Good shout. My number 3 is the Clone Wars finale. So that's season 7, episode 12. Ahsoka just falling with style. One of the coolest sequences in the entire animated, even in all of Star Wars. I don't think I've ever seen a Jedi do something this cool and awesome for that long. And it seemed like it was, because it's a cartoon, it was a one shot. It really was a one shot of her from the ship crashing to falling through. When she gets on the top of that ship and rides it down and jumps off and it explodes behind her and the lightsabers come out, that is my Star Wars. Like,
so this is a kind of,
that's my girl.
I have the high ground, a kind of, but I'm gonna let you go because you have a specific moment. I have a larger encompassing moment. So I'm gonna let you go.
This is my specific moment in this. Is her falling is so dope. I love it. And Rex is like, what? Blown away. Like, she's falling and he like looks over like out of the cockpit like, we do it. Like, we do it over there. And has like fly over and get her. Like, it was so cool. Bogz, this is peak Ahsoka here. Oh, you muted?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yes, I was. So yeah, it's definitely a top moment. Like, I think I had it in my top 10, so I put it outside of the 5 because yes, like she pretty much does something similar again in season 7. She kind of free falls twice. Both great animations, and like you said, you don't really see that in animations full stop. Never at that level. And graphics and detail, and she kind of lands with her 2 lightsabers, kind of she's put brakes on with her lightsabers as she hits the ground. So yes, great animation. But yes, like I said, I've gone for the more emotional stuff, so I didn't make my list. But yes, of course, great action scene. So she really stepped up season 7. This, and I hope I'm not mentioning anyone else's, but the other free fall in season 7, and of course the fight with Maul, like the motion capture, like all the action physical.
Oh, we'll get to that later.
With There you go. All the motion capture or like physical stuff that happened in season 7 of the Clone Wars, like Filoni just put extra kind of spice all over this stuff. So yes, yeah, she was great in season 7.
Well, Boggs basically went right into my number 3, which is Ahsoka versus Maul.
I have the high ground.
Okay.
Okay, we'll get to it then. So Boggs, you're number 3 then.
My number 3 is basically in a Twilight of the Apprentice, basically.
Let's do it.
The high
Oh,
ground.
Okay. Fair. Yeah, so obviously, let's just be clear. Like Twilight of the Apprentice, that whole sequence, story arc, is probably Ahsoka's best moment, right? But I've not put it as number 1 just because, to do something different. Because we all kind of know that that's the best kind of, maybe one of the best moments in all Star Wars, that kind of moment with all these characters and stuff. So I've kind of put it lower down just to do something different. And what hit me maybe emotionally unexpected upon doing this research. So that's why, if anyone's wondering why it's not number 1, that's the reason. So whose soul is your 3?
So it's Colin's number 2.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we've already moved all the way up to number 2.
Yeah.
Mine is Mandalorian season 2, episode, was it 5? The Jedi? Whichever one's the Jedi. So the Jedi.
Yes.
And it's her expo dump. It's her conversation with Din Djarin and Grogu, and just like explaining everything that she just learned from Grogu. Spoiler alerts for season 2 of The Mandalorian if you're watching a Star Wars show. That, look, this dude was at the Jedi Temple. Like, but we don't know what happened to him after that. He doesn't even know what happened to him himself after that. Like, I just imagine like little Grogu just like fending for himself, eating everything that he can handle. And she's so needed at this time in the show. She arrives in Rebels and is needed because, like, if I'm be honest, like it probably wouldn't have kept me watching Rebels if I didn't know that Ahsoka was coming at the end, because the show was just kind of, it didn't know where it was going, but it knew where it was going the entire time. At least that, this was kind of needed for me to, at least in season 2, where I wanted this story to get bigger the right way, and Ahsoka was the right way to do it. And she comes in and just lays it all out on the line for Din. The Force music plays, hair stands up on your arm, you hear it. She says Yoda. She's the first person to say like a Jedi's name in the show, besides her own, or besides Bo-Katan saying her name. And it's just got everything you like. It just hits you in the feels. You can watch it all the time. The shot of with the fire between them and Din's looking up at her and Grogu, like that whole moment, that whole like 7 minutes is like the bomb. It's so cool. It's Ahsoka Tano talking to the Mandalorian. Soul, I don't think there's anything cooler you could ask for to be on television.
The Mandalorian is learning about his son in that moment. And he's learning, like, he could kind of probably tell that Grogu's been through some shit, but to like actually hear it and see, like, oh, he was on Coruscant. He survived Order 66. We don't know all of the horrors that he had to go through, but that Ahsoka can feel that. And kind of shows us too a little bit of why like Grogu kind of like has some dark side moments when he's like force choking or the stormtroopers like hitting them against the wall and such. So yeah, that he's learning about his son in that moment, and you can see even though he has full Mandalorian armor, you could see like him like having those emotional moments and those emotional beats, which whether it was Pedro Pascal or his double who was underneath that, like they do such a good job of showing emotion even with their face completely covered.
Bogz, what about you, man?
Yeah, so that whole sequence. So yes, yeah, like you learn, like he's learning about his son, but you're also learning about like you okay. So well, as well at that fireplace scene that she's explaining, his history. She talks about Yoda as well. I knew another species like this one, and the music is just not like obviously you hear Yoda's theme as they're talking about Yoda with Grogu in the middle, Mandalorian, and Ahsoka each side, which she's had many good and bad experiences with Mandalorians, and then Grogu in the middle around this fireplace, and you just hear Yoda's theme. It's like what the crazy, and not just the Yoda theme, like the actual music in this episode is next. So I know people said that about the music Mandalorian. I did 100%. The first time I watched it was absolutely in love with it. It's just the more I watch it, the more you can't resist it. Like it's just a part of the character, and it just carries the scene. And yeah, so what I was trying to say was that, like with Din Djarin, like it's building. She's telling him about Grogu, but it's building it's making Din Djarin change and adapt. Like it's like building his character as well, because it's teaching him, because at the end of the day, Grogu's a Jedi, right? Basically. So he doesn't know about Jedi. He thinks they're these evil Force users, or there's like a bad rep about them kind of thing. So it's making him understand and change as a character, building up to the later episodes to help him understand his somewhat. He learned his name even, like he didn't know that before without Ahsoka. So yes, definitely emotional, great moments there. So yeah, good pick. So who we on?
I thought I was muted, but I wasn't muted. So let's take it over to Soul for your number 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do this really quick because I need to get my charger for my computer.
We can send it over to Bogz if you need to go grab it real quick. So let's send it to Bogz for his number 2, and then we'll see you in a second.
Yeah, sure. So my number 2 is a subtle episode, but like rewatching this, I was like so impressed with the emotion and the kind of range of stuff that Ahsoka goes through in this whole episode. So season 2 of Rebels, episode 18. It's called Shroud of Darkness. So if you remember, Colin, I talked about this with you and Crystal about this episode. So at the start of the episode, she basically she is watching a holocron of Anakin doing a lightsaber lesson, like a training lesson, and Ezra's watching as well. So they're both watching Anakin doing and it's Matt Lanter voicing as well, doing like a lightsaber basic tutorial 101 type thing. And then Ezra asks Ahsoka, "Oh, did you know him?" He was like, "Yes." He was an amazing Jedi, blah blah. The last time I saw him, he was running to save the Chancellor, which is a kind of tie into Clone Wars. That literally wasn't the last thing that she done, but kind of where she was. Him and Obi-Wan were going to to see Grievous, basically. So kind of, in a way, going to save the Chancellor, and then Kanan joins them, and then they have a discussion about what to do. They're all a bit lost, and then she kind of mentions, it would be in these times I'd go to Obi-Wan for help, or I'd go to Yoda, and then Kanan's like, why don't we go speak to him? So it's a bit confusing, and then they go to Lothal. They come across a Jedi temple. And then they kind of, amassing the princess to open it. They ask Ahsoka to. She goes, no, I can't. It has to be, I'm not a Jedi anymore. So anyway, they open it. And then they all basically go on these separate missions where Kanan has his own trial. So they're kind of sitting down and meditating. And then like a door opens for Kanan that no one else can see. And just the effects of how this door looks, it's like bright white and there's smoke coming out. I applaud anyone. Please anyone rewatch it. Like the animation is unreal of how good it is, and you just hear like Kevin Kiner's music is beautiful, and then Kanan kind of goes through his kind of Jedi trial where he gets knighted. Ezra goes to another door and he basically speaks to Yoda, and then Ahsoka has like a 2-minute kind of reminiscing scenes with Anakin. She has like she hears Anakin like in a Clone Wars Anakin with Matt Lanter voicing, and then it explains like, I'm sorry and I've let you down, and then he kind of turns into Vader, and then you hear the kind of the Vader's theme, and then she kind of realizes, and then she has like she kind of breaks down and like starts punching the ground and has like an emotional moment. And then as they're leaving the Jedi Temple, because it's falling, right? Because it's just falling, and obviously Kanan leaves, he's knighted, he's had his own mission. Ezra's had his own kind of little mission with Yoda, and as they're running out, and then she kind of stops and looks around and she sees Yoda there, and they just kind of wave to each other, and the music's beautiful. And she at this point you're realizing that she hasn't seen Ahsoka. They haven't seen each other for like 15 years, 16 years at this point, because this is like 5 years before A New Hope. and it's like 15 years after Revenge of the Sith. She left a bit before Revenge of the Sith, so it's been a while. So she's seen obviously Yoda in the events leading up to Revenge of the Sith. We know that in season 7 of the Clone Wars. So this is like 15 years she's not seen him. It's just that nice emotional nod, like, oh, like look at, she's seen Anakin, she's seen Yoda, she's been, she's in the Jedi Temple. It's just a lot of nice things for Ahsoka as a character, as building her character. So yes, she's it was like her realization of her basically accepting that Anakin is Vader. So yes, love this episode, this whole episode, start to finish, one of my favorite Rebels episodes. So yes, do you remember this episode, Sol?
Yeah, another tearjerker there
Yeah,
in
yeah.
this episode. And speaking to kind of what Colin said, is that she wasn't at acceptance yet in the first episode of season 2, and that this one she finally went through acceptance for this. And just like, yeah, to see her talking to Anakin again, just seeing that and just knowing like everything again in the Clone Wars,
Mm-hmm.
and Master and Apprentice are back together, and
Definitely.
then so that makes your heart happy, and then you see him become Darth Vader,
Mm-hmm.
and that just brings all the like emotions into, and just like you said, seeing Yoda as well. And that, so it's basically like you're confronting your past, you're seeing your past, and then you're still going forward. And that's what I love about Ahsoka, is that she can always go forward.
And it's building up to them clashing. Obviously, Vader and Ahsoka, like, oh my god, are they gonna actually confront each other? So yeah, it's definitely a tense thing. But what do you think, Colin?
Yeah, this is just one of those moments in Rebels where you're like, thanks, Dave. Like, you get it. This is the message he's trying to portray. All these different storylines are things that he's been weaving. He's trying to get these characters to this moment so they can actually learn something about themselves and have it mean something. And Ahsoka has to, this sets her on the path to know, like, she's got a bigger play here. She's got a bigger, like, she's part of this plan, whether or not she likes it or not, and how to, set everything right. Sorry, I got leaf blowers going outside. Sol, over to you. Your number 2 pick.
Okay, so for my number 2, it is Star Wars Clone Wars. It's season 7, kind of episode 11 and 12 together, Shattered and Victory and Death, and that's Ahsoka surviving Order 66. And because we saw her in Rebels, going back to my number 5 pick, she survived Order 66. You see Rex in Rebels, so you know that he got rid of his inhibitor chip. And all these things that and then you actually see them, and just all the emotional beats, her telling Rex that it's not his fault when, like, after he tries to kill her at the beginning when Order 66 is activated. And so just the fact that you're seeing Rex try to kill Ahsoka at first, that's emotional. Then her telling him it's not your fault, that's super emotional. And I'm sure that Rex, even after that, still harbored that guilt of having that chip in, even though, yeah, it wasn't his fault at all. And he had to grow from that as well into his older age and learn, like, it's not his fault. And so that's kind of like the emotional part of it too. You have Ahsoka blocking all the shots from the clones without harming them. You have Ahsoka saying, like, they may be willing to die, but I'm not going to be the one that kills them. So she's holding that in, like, these are the people she fought with. These are the people that she loves, the people that she's basically grown up with. And so even if they are going to die, it's not going to be by her hands. And that is, again, such emotional, tearing up watching this. I watched, going to like my number 3 one was like, I watched all last 3 episodes in a row, and that of season 7, and that was like just tearjerker the whole time. Lots of tears. Bogz, what do you think?
Yeah, it definitely. It's particularly the way, like you said, Rex is about to shoot her, and what was he saying, like, go see Fives kind of thing, like go and speak to Fives, and she doesn't understand, and she has to like kind of defend him and also fend him off as well. So that's super tough, and she kind of faces a barrage of blaster fire that she has to, like I said, deflect and stuff, and then she manages to get out, and then so yeah, like you're saying, like she has to try to not hurt them, or she kind of elects that way. And it is the kind of emotional scenes, but like they literally all end up dying. So it's like, yeah, okay, like okay, cool. But yeah, like no, it's definitely a great how she because you basically see, because you always wondered as a Star Wars fan, how did she escape this? Because what situation was she in? Like how did she, how did Rex survive? Get all the answers here. Yeah, so they have an emotional journey, and when Rex and her reunite in Rebels, now you understand it so much more. Okay, what they've been through specifically, leading up to kind of the Order 66 and during the event. So yes, definitely a good emotional character building moment for Ahsoka.
I cry every time. This is what's coming, it's gonna hurt, and the second I can't tell you how many times I've watched over and over and over again from when she drops, because she feels the pain of the temple and everything happening right now, and Order 66 being issued. Like, she feels it all the entire time. So like that sensation doesn't go away of people constantly dying. So she's not only defending herself, but the Force is just going berserk right now on all sides. So she's dealing with that. You got Maul busting out of there at the same time. I know this isn't Ahsoka show, but Maul tearing apart those dudes in the hallway is up there for top hallway scenes. And we know,
yeah,
we
he
all
kind of
love
steals the show that episode.
Yeah, he does. He busts them out when he's like pulling off the shrapnel off the wall and using it as shit. Like, oh my god, like that is just like pure like it's peak Maul right there. That is him at his go to. And Ahsoka goes toe to toe with him in the end. But I mean, prior, and that shows more about her. I think is that like how baller she is. But we've made it to Bogz's number 2.
Oh, we don't mind number 2. My number 2 was the Shroud of Darkness episode in Rebels. So
it's your number 1, Colin.
Oh,
yes.
Well, let's talk about it. Great transition, Colin. It's the duel with Darth Maul. Mm-hmm. This is one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life. We talked about it earlier a little bit. With what I saw with those mocap suits was it's my favorite lightsaber fight in all of Star Wars. It comes across to me with the emotion, the stakes, the plot that is dropped there. Like when Maul goes, "Oh yes, I feel it. The plan." Like he sees everything. The second she shows up and it's not Anakin, the whole thing opens up to him. And that's the closest anyone ever got to really seeing the entire picture of what was going on behind the scenes and what everyone had to do with really Anakin's part in the entire story. And he's like, yo, we gotta team up here. And that's a moment where I was kind of like, she could say yes. I know she's not gonna say yes, but she could say yes, and this would be really cool. But instead we get this fight that is just untouchable. I haven't seen anything this cool, maybe ever. It's just like the ending on the scaffolding or whatever that is, like the ending down there, and then just to have him tied up, and Maul's reaction there is like, you gotta do something. This isn't good. Bad stuff is about to happen. Like, really adamant about it. And you're like, he's right. But this isn't a happy story right now. And we know we're not watching a happy story. But Bogz, we do it to ourselves anyways, man. How do you feel about this moment?
So, yes, I'm nearly all the way there with what you're saying. So it was in my top 10. Okay, so yes, the actual mo-caption stuff with Ray Park, and I believe her name is Lauren May Kim. She's a great follow on Instagram. You just see her doing somersaults randomly, and just seeing her kind of stunt work and martial arts and stuff is great. But yeah, they yes, awesome. Like I rewatched it for this, and I like it now more than I did when I actually watched it. Like it's so good and realistic. Yes, awesome fight scene. So there is a couple of criticisms around this. So I kind of slightly agree with one of them and I don't with the other, but I'll just confirm what they are. So, first one is when they're on that beam at the end. Like, I don't really like the way she wins. Like, she kind of cuts the beam, and because like they were really even, and like you thought like, oh my god, how is this gonna end? Like, she can't beat him, like, and like he can't beat her. It's like, really, it's like a standoff. Like, I think that's kind of fair. And then she kind of cuts the beams, and then he's gonna die, and then she kind of force stops him. And I was like, oh, can she really be like with that? I don't know, that just didn't sit 100% well with me. And then obviously the clones come and save her. And then the other criticism with that is, which I don't agree with, was that, at the time that this was out, that people weren't happy that Ahsoka, making her a little bit too OP, a bit too on point, where she can kind of best maul, damage Vader, which obviously we'll come to in a second, and and have kind of exchanges with Palpatine, in Rebels as well. So it's making it a little bit too OP, but I don't think that's true, because I think that, yes, she does have these exchanges with these characters, but they're just like, she gives them damage. She doesn't, like, the story isn't overall about her specifically. She doesn't change the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy or anything like that. She just takes these hits with these people, and they take damage because of how good she is. It doesn't make her too OP, because but yeah, I didn't love the way that fight ended all the way up until that beam stuff. Yes, I did really love, but I was like, oh really? Like, just at that end point, to be absolutely fair, if I'm being perfectly honest. But yeah, so what are your thoughts on that kind of ending, that fight scene and stuff?
So that was my number 3, and just like echoing Colin, like, it is the coolest lightsaber fight you will ever see. Just the fact, like, I was watching it today and I was like, wait, let me
It's
rewind
so
that
good.
again.
It's
Let me
so good.
rewind it
Like,
a second time,
honestly,
maybe a third time, because it is just, I was here in my room just like, yes, like, so excited watching it, and because it just looked so cool, and the fact that the animation was so amazing, and we might not have seen it be that cool if season 7 happened when it was supposed to happen. The fact that we got it in 2020, better animation, because each year animation gets better and better and better, that made that fight so cool. The mocap, everything that Colin was saying, but it also hits those emotional beats as well, where you have Maul asking Ahsoka to join him defeat Darth Sidious, and in that moment, like when you're over here and you're like, Maul is right, kind of when you're watching the prequel trilogy and you're like, oh, Dooku was right when he was talking about what was going on in the background, and they're like, nah, I'm not gonna listen to you, I'm not gonna believe you, and I'm like, listen to Dooku, he knows what he's talking about.
What if
So
I told you that the galactic?
yeah, that's the kind of some of the mistakes, some of the flaws of the Jedi, right?
yeah.
That they were too dogmatic with their belief, right?
Yeah.
The bad guys could never tell us the truth.
Right. And you have too, like Maul telling Ahsoka that Darth Sidious has been grooming Anakin, and she's like, I'm not gonna believe you on that. And you kind of
Dying.
see too, the enemy of my enemy is my friend does not work in this situation. And you see that trope in so many movies and TV shows, and this fight was like, nah, we're not gonna do that. We might have the same enemy. We might be fighting against the same person. Doesn't make us friends.
That's true. You know what else? We've made it. We're at the top of the peak here. So, you're number 1.
It's Ahsoka versus Darth Vader. Of course it is.
Okay, that's fair. Twilight of the Apprentice. Run.
Yes. So I want to give a small little shout out to the slight rematch with Maul before going to save Ezra from Darth Vader, which we don't know it's a rematch. But then once you see season 7, you're like, oh, look at that little rematch there. So giving that little shout out goes, it's not only is it cool, it's not as cool as the her versus Maul lightsaber fight, but it's still super, like, the action is great. But it's also emotional. You like this exchange, for example, like, Anakin Skywalker was weak, I destroyed him. She goes, I'll avenge his death. He goes, revenge is not the Jedi way. Her, I am no Jedi. So that's one of the moments like that you see throughout Ahsoka's like timeline, is her saying, I am no Jedi. And that she is going to enact this revenge for Anakin, But then you see her cut part of his helmet off. She sees his eyes. You can hear Anakin's voice mixed in with Darth Vader's voice. That moment for her, all of that emotion, like again, crying. And Ahsoka telling Vader, like, I won't leave you, not this time, which the last time we saw them together was when she was leaving the Jedi Order. So, like, again, like we saw season 7 later, and so they've saw each other before that. But to our knowledge, when we first watched this episode, last time was her walking away into the sunset saying goodbye. And you don't know that if they've ever saw each other again. And so the I won't leave you moment that plays on your heartstrings. That's like, I'm here for you, Anakin.
Playing on them right now.
Yeah, I'm here for you, Anakin. I'm not gonna leave. Look at Colin crying over there. That was me earlier today, Colin. It's okay. So it's emotional beats are there, but then also like the fight is super awesome. She's saving Ezra, which we all love. The stuff with Ezra and Kanan in the middle of that fight too, super emotional. So you got like all of these beats going on in that episode that you're like, my heart, my full heart. Bogz, what do you think?
I think that was an absolutely fantastic summary of that whole sequence. Like, you've literally mentioned everything I was going to mention, apart from the music. Like, the music is so good. Like, Kevin Kline, I can't wait till he gets Star Wars movie. Like, is out of control. And like, the only other part that I think that you didn't mention, so like that I just noticed, like, so upon all this kind of stuff in season 2 that we've noticed, that where she's kind of she's protecting him with even at her expense, even over Kanan and Ezra. You kind of notice this upon the rewatches. You don't kind of notice the first time you watch it. The only thing is where she kind of says, "I won't leave you," and and you hear him and he's cut. What does Vader do? He just, like, you're thinking like, oh, is he gonna break? Like what happens? Are they gonna talk? He just ignites his lightsaber. Like, she's like, no, like, that's the moment she realizes he's gone. Like, this is the moment, like, I can't bring him back. Like, and it's, the actual animation of Vader, like, I implore anyone to rewatch it. Is absolutely beautiful. When he takes his hits, the way he moves, like the design, the color palette of it all is absolutely gorgeous. And when he ignites his lightsaber, it happens in like slow motion, and you hear like there's like a high pitched, like, echoey noise, and then she kind of running after it, like they kind of run and clash. So, and then obviously when kind of Kanan and Ezra are escaping, Ezra shouting, Ahsoka, and then she kind of force pushes them away, and she does the kind of back saber thing to block them. So she, even if it's at her expense, even if it's at her, if it means risking her life, she's still gonna save him. She still doesn't want to leave him, even though when he's had the opportunity, he's gonna lay it down, he's gonna kill her, but she will not do the same no matter what. So yeah, like, it just shows her whole character journey, whole character arc, and it kind of ties up her story with Vader as well. Because at this point, moving forward, they don't kind of see each other again, as far as we know. But yeah, it's awesome. One of the best moments of all Star Wars. There's no doubt about it. And yeah, it's awesome. Great summary, that's all, honestly.
Yeah, if you follow all the canon, this is it. This is the moment. This is the moment where you're like, oh, I've been paying attention. And because I paid attention to everything, I've been rewarded with a nice treat. It was a nice little Christmas present, and it was the season finale. There was so much going on in this episode. Yeah. I mean, Kanan gets blinded in this episode. Like, this is like one of the wildest sequences of events. Like, you like see in Star Wars, like, the stakes are just raised. So you think like, oh, this is the Empire Strikes Back of this series. Yeah. This is the moment where everything gets bleak for a while, and it's needed. It's perfect. I say it's a perfect little story. There's nothing. These two episodes together, perfect. 10 out of 10. For Ahsoka, it's so just powerful watching her conquer that Anakin thing. Like, just conquering, like, even though we know in the moment what happens afterwards. And it's surprised none of us mentioned what happens afterwards. But she's given in the moment. She's like, y'all said it, and I'm gonna say it again. I'm not leaving you again. That's it. Bogz, we made it. The final pick of the top 5 Ahsoka Tano moments. Give it to us.
So yeah, this wasn't my number one before. When if you'd just tell me to tell you your top 5 moments, but upon watching it again, so like I got teary-eyed watching this. It was so good. And Colin, you just mentioned it there. My number one is the World Between Worlds stuff. So I believe it or not, I've only seen this once because I was so absolutely floored and impressed with how good it was. And I don't want to watch it again. I want to watch the full kind of rerun of Rebels and then just kind of stumble across it and watch it naturally. But upon this list, I thought, okay, let me just see it again. And I can't believe how much detail is in this stuff. So I'll just explain that. So as she is fighting Vader, obviously Ezra's looking through all the portals. He sees her there, and then he pulls her out. She is about to die. Just to clarify, right? She kind of puts her sabers in the ground, as she does a few times, and then the ground cracks. Vader is mid-flow trying to pull her out, and then Ezra goes Ahsoka, and then pulls her out, right? And then kind of Vader swipes and misses, and then he falls to the ground. Okay, and then she kind of lands in the portal, and then they're basically confused. They have a bit of a catch up, and then as they're having this catch up, right, you hear Obi-Wan once thought as you did, like in the port, like as they're talking, like what, you're like, huh, what happened there? And then as they continue talking, you just hear, you don't know the power of the dark side. Like as they're talking, like you hear Vader in the World Between Worlds, like you're like, what the is going on? You're like, it's like literally gripping, and then out of the blue, that the Maori kind of the owl comes and in kind of she catches him or her, and then they have a catch up, and then Ezra asks like, what is this? And she's like, oh, she's an old friend. She's saved my life a few times. And then he kind of realizes, oh, I can save Kanan as well. They run over, different portal. They see Kanan, and then he's like, he's there, and then he's holding the force field, and Ahsoka says, you can't save him. And he's like, what do you mean? I just saved you. I can save him. I can reach him. He's just there. And she goes, no, he's already died. Like, if you say he was doing that to save you, if you pull him out, you're gonna die, and then it will have a rippling effect. Then you're gonna die now. Now basically that's the kind of law that they built. And I was like, oh my god, that just makes so much sense. And then there's an emotional scene where he realizes, and as soon as that, he's like, I want to see my parents now. And then you hear like thunder, like like a force lightning thing. And she goes, we need to go. And then you just hear the cackling, and then you see Palpatine. You just get bang, bang, scene after scene after scene. It's like gripping stuff. And then you hear Palpatine say, Ezra Bridger and Ahsoka Tano, mine at last. And then he comes through with the kind of force lightning.
Ezra Bridger.
Yeah, and bear in mind, I was just like, oh, shall I put it on? And I'm watching it like absolutely gripped to my seat, like, why have I watched this again? And then kind of he kind of catches Ezra, tries to pull him through the portal. He's like, show me the way, Ezra. And then she kind of uses her lightsabers to kind of slash it away. And then they're kind of running away from, like, it's like a ghost force lightning thing or something like that.
It's like smoke. It's like a blue force
it's chasing,
smoke. It is
chasing
so
both of them down. Yeah, like a running path.
It's like magic. It's like the closest thing to this actually being magic that I've
little
seen.
bit. And they kind of have an exchange as they're running to say, when you return, find me. And it kind of like focuses on that. And like in hindsight, it's like, oh yeah, leading up to the kind of epilogue and where we are on the Mandalorian, it's literally like, it's like, pause, look at this thing. This is going to mean something later. And like, yeah, when you come back, find me, and they kind of both go in the pause. And yeah, so I just like, and as well, when she's talking to Ezra, like, this is something that I would have never noticed, but upon the rewatch, as she's talking to him in the War Between Worlds, she puts her hand on his shoulder like 4 or 5 times, just as they're talking. She puts her hand on one shoulder, she walks around and puts her hand on the other shoulder. If you watch every scene that I've mentioned, she does the same thing throughout the whole series. She's like an emotional guide for Ezra. She does it in when she hears Vader when she says the apprentice lives. She does it in the Jedi Temple. She's just constantly patting him on the back, just building this kind of kinship here, building this apprentice stuff. So it's just like things are definitely falling into place, and you see that their journey is going to come together in fruition in the kind of Filoniverse moving forward. But yes, this is absolutely fantastic stuff. As soon as I heard like Obi-Wan was, you trust me, you have to watch it. Like, it completely throws you for like what is like going on here in this War Between Worlds. So yes, absolutely perfect storytelling for me. I couldn't believe how good it was, and I was getting emotional watching it. Seeing the Vader stuff, the Kanan stuff, the Palpatine stuff, it was like bang, bang, bang. So awesome moment in all of Star Wars. So absolutely love it. So yeah, like you mentioned, like some of 10 out of 10 things, like Twilight the Apprentice, 10 out of 10. Twin Sons 10 out of 10, War Between Worlds 10 out of 10. So that's why I love Rebels. That's why I love Ahsoka. And yes, one of my favorite moments. So what do you think, Colin? War Between Worlds.
This is the like this. I was initially skeptical on the World Between Worlds because it is kind of
definitely. I was like, no, this ain't gonna work. Why are they doing that? Yeah. You can't do time travel in Star Wars. What are you talking about?
The rules are explained.
Mm-hmm.
Once the rules are explained, it seems like it all makes sense. There was we never really get we kind of do. We get a little bit of resolution with the Palpatine stuff because Ezra
he comes back again, right? Yeah, a little bit.
Again, yeah. Ezra kind of a little bit, but I want to know how he got in there. I really want to know. You can give me some shoddy one-off comic. I don't give a shit. But I really want to know how that dude was just like, force fire, go! Like, what?
And he was like younger in the later episode. He was like younger when he was speaking to Ezra, when he's going to see his parents in like the final episode, right? So yeah, definitely interested in that kind of Sith technology or like Sith Force use, definitely.
Yeah, apparently, I guess like in the Sith, you portray like your essence of like of how you see yourself, I guess. And this, to me, for a while, I didn't jive with this. Then Bogz, I watched it again, not recently, but a beginning of quarantine last year, and I was just breathtaking. I was stunned. I was just like, after you watch it all, the whole run leading up to this, and if you're binging it, you probably watched Kanan die like 2 or 3 days before, and and then for it to be right there and the possibility of saving him after seeing, you're like, well, we can't. And like you said, the emotional guide, she teaches lessons on this show, and I think it's time for Soul to give us one last lesson on one of these moments.
And just going back to my moment, my number one is when Darth Vader's leaving the Sith Temple. You think Ahsoka is dead. You go to the next season going, that's it for Ahsoka. She's gone. She's dead. And that was like, I think like as fans, we all mourned her kind of like after watching that. We were like, she's gone. So that's the moment of like just the fact of her being saved by Ezra and her coming back. That was an exciting moment. I'll agree with Colin at first when I was like, oh, time travel? They're really going to do time travel? What? But then you watch it and you watch all the beats that Bogz like just said perfectly. Like, I don't think I can explain it perfectly, like in the way that he did, that each emotional beat after another one. And it was one of those like, okay, yeah, no, this works. This works so well. And there's a reason why we haven't seen it again in Star Wars. It's because it worked so well in that moment. And I don't want them to mess up the World Between Worlds. So whenever it does come back up, because it probably will, I hope that they have just as much reverence as they had in that episode. Because, yeah, World Between Worlds.
Yeah, when we first started this show, we did the holiday special was coming out when we first started the show a couple months ago. And we talked about the possibility of what if Rey was using the World Between Worlds to go to all the different times, but it ended up being sort of like a World Between Worlds mobile edition and kind of got her around to where she needed to be. But they know it exists, and I think that's important, and I think it'll come back. There's it's no reason why it shouldn't in the Rebels finale and the Rebels sequel series that we keep hearing rumors about. Maybe, but these are just our top 5 Ahsoka Tano moments for right now, because Ahsoka is getting her own spin-off show, which of course we'll be reviewing here on We Have the High Ground, part of the pop culture universe. Folks, thanks so much for hanging out. If you've lasted this long all the way to the end of the list, we hope you enjoyed hanging out with us today. Just having a little fun, kicking back, talking some Star Wars, talking a little Ahsoka Tano. Soul, social media manager of the year over here, getting us going. Where can the fine people find you and everything else we're doing right now?
You can find me at SoulGovin on Twitter, at soul.k.govin on Instagram. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at PopCUniverse. We already have intros for the 3 of us in there, so go check those out. we tell you guys a little bit about ourselves if you don't know about us already. I think we all like Star Wars. I'm not sure about it, but I think we do. But
It's all
yeah,
right.
go check us out over there. Go like the post that I just did on Instagram, and yeah, with more to come on both Twitter and Instagram for that.
Mr. Bogz. What about you?
Yes, so hit us up on Instagram. That's is it the P? Is it Popsy? What was the
Yeah,
actual
Pop
Instagram
C
handle?
Universe.
Yes, hit us up on there. Obviously, like this video, share it if you can. Catch us on the Ultimate Showdown Show. We have moved channels. Okay, we have moved channels to John Roker's YouTube channel. That's John Roker. Anyone that doesn't know, we are live 2 p.m. on Saturday. That channel has 15,000 plus subscribers. Big move for us. Live show. Tune on in. Likes, comments, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Well, thanks everyone for coming along on the journey. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this. What do we say? Cheesiest moments? Is that right?
Cringiest.
Cringiest moments. That's it. Yeah, I was already thinking of some as the list is going on. Yeah, I'm definitely excited for that one. So yeah, I'm
And
up for that.
that's 2 p.m. Pacific for anyone who's
Yes.
wondering. Pacific.
His name was Paolo. He was in the foreign youth program. He was very nice. I hate him. I hate him like I hate sand. Can't wait. This is gonna be too much fun. You can find me, Colin, at _C Morris, and I'm everywhere Bogz is, so find me there. And yeah, we'll be back next week with our top 5 cringiest Star Wars moments. So remember, folks, until next time, we have the high ground. Bye.